Okay, so we move on to the next game, which is the Packers at the Eagles. Paul, why don't you kick us off on this one?
So this game's quite interesting. They met each other in week one in Brazil, and but a lot has happened since that time, and that game was played in Brazil. Um, the Packers, interesting because the Packers could end their season in losing to the Vikings, a very good team in this year's NFL, the Lions, and the Eagles. Like the deck was stacked against the Packers from the start because of their division, and just because of their division, they ended up being the 7 seed in the NFC, and then I mean they were third in their division. Like with the record that they had, like is ridiculous. Um, with the Eagles, Hurts practiced today limited, but that means he is going to play. He's going to play. And this Eagles team, I mean, defensively, they're elite. Offensively, you've said it, and I agree, they're quite simple, but they are simple with elite players who are very, very good at what they do. Their offensive line are very good at creating holes for Saquon and for, you know, and the RPO with Jalen Hurts. I don't think you'll see as much of that because of Hurts and his concussion. Um, and AJ Brown on the outside. I don't know if Jair Alexander is going to play.
I don't
Uh,
think so.
right. So AJ Brown is effectively open if the ball's thrown up. Like, I don't think Jair Alexander would have taken him away, but he could have had a slight limiting factor to AJ Brown. And you've got, because he's a running back and he's not going to win the MVP, but you've still got what I consider should be the MVP of the league in the backfield, who's rested after having last week off. And a lot of them had last week off against the Packers, who, yeah, were pretty disappointing last week against the Bears. I know that Love got hurt, and Love was asked about his elbow injury, and he wasn't very convincing in his answers about, yeah, I'm good to go. He just kind of said, "Oh, we'll see," and that's not the confidence that you want heading into Philadelphia. Philadelphia's just got a better roster all around. I think the Packers need Jordan Love from last year's playoffs, but Jordan Love from last year's playoffs in this round was it this? I think it was it was this round against the Cowboys. This is not the Cowboys. This is the Eagles defense, and the guys that they have in their secondary, that Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, like these are really really good players, and it just goes back to a broader subject with the Eagles. Like, how do they constantly get away with drafting these players? How do the NFL let these players drop to the Eagles? Yeah, this guy's really, really talented. Well, then draft him. Don't let him fall to the Eagles. And they seem to be able to sit there and not make a trade and still get possibly the one of the best players in the first round sitting there in the 20s in the draft. Yeah, I think the Eagles have too much for the Packers. I think the Eagles are going to crush them. To be honest, I think this is not close. I don't understand why the Broncos are 8.5 point dogs and the Packers are only 4.5 point dogs. I think that the Eagles are going to handle this game, and yeah, look ahead to the Eagles are a danger team for the Super Bowl, just based on roster and just based on who they have got on this team. And yeah, it's simple, but this defense is really, really good. And yes, Jordan Love needs to play absolutely out of his mind. And he hasn't done that enough this year. And unless playoff Jordan Love from last year turns up, I don't think this is close. I say the Eagles win this by 10.
Very interesting. I just think this is a horrible matchup for the Packers. They made a big mistake losing to the Bears last week. Because if they beat the Bears, they at least, I think they play the the Buccaneers.
Going to Tampa, yeah.
Where okay, we'll take our chances.
Well, I'll give them
This,
a shot in Tampa. Like,
yeah, definitely. But this matchup to me is the Packers' offense are run first and they're quite run heavy, especially in these big games. They won't give up on the run almost to a fault where the game's done. Now you're going to start throwing it when you're 17 down. But yeah, they want to run the ball. The Eagles are not going to let them run the ball. What is the Packers' defensive Achilles heel? They can't stop the run. Well, guess what? The Eagles are the most elite team at running the ball. So again, I just think this is going to be a blowout probably because Saquon Barkley could go absolutely crazy in this game. And to me, like I keep saying it about the Packers, they're going to beat all the bad teams because they execute well overall. But when plan A doesn't work in these big games, it's because of superstars and the lack thereof they have on offense and defense. Jordan Love, I think, has been banged up most of the year. Now he's got this elbow injury. But I think even if he played lights out, they're going to lose this game. And Christian Watson tore his ACL last week. He's probably their most explosive or their biggest deep threat. I'm looking at these other guys, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs. Yeah, they tore up the Cowboys, but as you said, Paul, that was the Cowboys. It's not going to happen against the Eagles. And on the other side, if they're going to have to overload the box to try and stop Saquon Barkley. And of course, that means that AJ Brown will be one-on-one. Devonta Smith will be one-on-one. Even that tight end, the second tight end, Calcaterra, he can make massive plays. And yeah, I mean, maybe the spread is being influenced by Jalen Hurts' concussion. But as you said, limited in practice today, he's playing. And it's just a case of, yeah, maybe we won't run it as much with Jalen because at the end of the day, you probably can't win the Super Bowl without him. He is a value add. I know I've been critical of him in the past, but he's definitely playing a lot better this year. And I know a lot has happened since that Week 1 game. It was in Brazil, but the score didn't really reflect the matchup. That should have been a blowout. But Jalen Hurts threw a couple of bad interceptions, one in the end zone, one in his own red zone. So, we're a long way from there. The Eagles have grown since then. The Packers have stumbled since then. I have to agree. Eagles win and by over 10.